You know, there's a famous line from a movie is build it and they will come. It's not always the case. You've built it and now your employees won't come. Do you have a clash in your organization? Is your culture right for your strategy? Listen in. Hi, Mark Reilly, InBuzz Group. Glad to be with you today. I want to talk about something that really is at the core one of the most difficult parts of transitioning your agency, and it's culture wars. It's how do you transform your agency, your small business, to meet the needs that you need to meet and have buy-in through culture. There's a cliche that's used a lot that says culture eats strategy for lunch, and whereas that's certainly true, I want to talk to you today about the thoughts that I don't think that they have to be mutually exclusive. Oftentimes I hear people talk to me and they say things like, I'll never be able to get my employees to buy into that. Like, it's your company. Another one of my favorites is, oh, that's not my client. My challenge to you is, if that's what you think, is can you show me the data, or is it just a feeling that it's your client's not able to adapt? And lastly, me. Am I able to absorb the culture to move into this new inbound and digital marketing space? One thing that I'll tell you that we did face, and we faced often, was resistance. And there's a number of reasons for that. One is it's more work at my desk, and I don't like that. The other is people don't like change. They like to stay in that box, and it makes them feel kind of icky to move outside of that box. Lack of buy-in. The thing is I didn't make up this rule, so I'm not going to follow this rule. And not involving them in the discussion. So what's the solution to that? Involve them in the process. I say this with somewhat of a disclaimer, is I think it's a good idea to bring the team together and say this is the direction we're moving in, and we want your input. We want you to help us develop our values, our vision, our mission, our strategy. But with that little bit of the disclaimer that I will respect your input, I will do my very best to include your input, but that doesn't guarantee that your input is going to make the final cut. And if it doesn't make the final cut, I still expect you to support our mission. We used a product called On Strategy, and there's a lot of tools like that, and we adopted On Strategy because it allowed everybody to say, okay, this is my piece of the pie, but I can see how it assembles overall to the top level goals that we're trying to reach within the agency. It might be a nice tool to use so everybody can see how their input adds to the overall success. A few moments ago I was talking about how a lot of business owners are afraid to implement stuff because of the pushback that they're going to get from their employees. If you go through the process where they're involved in the decision making, the development of your strategy, your business model, and hopefully your culture, then it's time to hold them accountable. It's time to say that this is what we're doing and you need to be involved. I got two examples that I want to share with you. One is we had employees that didn't want to blur the lines between their work and their free time, and so they would not get involved in supporting our social media and inbound marketing. They were saying, that's what I do outside of work, I'm not going to involve that. Now, we didn't use social media for things like let us quote your boat insurance. We tried to offer helpful content like what to do in case of a tornado or why you need products liability insurance. So when it came time for some of these employees' annual reviews, that was part of the review. You hit your production goal. You hit your education goal. But guess what? You didn't support our social and inbound marketing goal. And it cost them. I shared that in a class I was teaching in Cleveland once, and you could see the people in the audience that maybe had that feeling of, my boss has no right to ask me to promote what I do for a living outside of work. A lady raised her hand and she stuck up for some other people in the class, and she goes, you sound knowledgeable, but what I heard you is if you force people to do things like Facebook and LinkedIn, I would never work for you. I looked her dead in the eye and I said, you're right. You would never work for me. Culture and strategy shouldn't collide. They should collude. I almost hate to use that word in today's political environment. But the thing is a healthy culture should be the focal point of your strategy, of your mission, vision, and values. But on the other hand, you need to have a healthy strategy. You need to have a good business model, because companies that are built just on culture, like we went through during the dot-com era, if you don't have a sustainable business model, all the stress pods and ping pong tables in the world aren't going to allow you to have sustained success. It's important to marry the two, strategy and culture. So let's talk some strategy. Let's talk a little bit of strategy on how it helps build the proper culture in your agency. I've got an example of, do you trust each other? Think about it in your mind, a young group of 6-year-olds in their first year on a soccer team. If you've ever suffered through one of those games, you'll see that all the kids can basically fall down on the ball. They don't cover the whole field. They don't move on their own. They don't say, hey, here's the strategy is to move the ball down the field and score and protect our goal. They just all zone in on and hover around that. That doesn't work. You need a strategy that implements an overall people's responsibilities to the overall goal, not the ball, scoring. That's what you want to do. How about disagreements? Do you have a healthy environment where you encourage dissent? The availability for people not to feel like, if I get into an argument, even if that other person has an idea that they think help the company, I want to win. How's that going to help your overall goals? And then lastly, think about who's taking care of the baby. When you had your child and the first day you took him to daycare, when you went back to work, and you're handing that baby off to the daycare, you're like, are they going to take care of this kid like I take care of this kid? Think about that. The same in your business is when sales hands off to service. Are they going to take care of my client like it's my client? Or when marketing hands the lead off to sales, are they comfortable that there's the trust with the handoff there? Now, to develop your strategy and your culture, I want you to ask 2 questions of yourself. What business you're in? And when you define what business you're in, have you defined your value proposition on how you're going to take each one of those decisions to market? I want you to answer those questions. In conclusion, I'm talking to 2 audiences today. First of all, if you're an owner, take ownership. Don't use the excuse of my clients don't want to listen. Figure out who your clients and prospects are and talk to them. And also, don't let the Indians you're the chief, run your business. Also, if you're a stakeholder, look at the culture of your overall organization, and you should have a vested interest. If you don't like the culture, you're not enjoying your job. It's time to move on. And if you're just holding a space that somebody else would maybe come in and buy into the culture, you're really ethically challenging yourself, because the fact is you're taking away the enjoyment from other people that work there. Culture and strategy should not clash. They should collude. And I also think that you need to have a sustainable business model that is supported by an overall culture that you hire, employ, and direct. Thanks, and we'll talk to you again in the future.